Maggie Hayes. I have been a lover of working with clay since I was a little bitty kid. I remember making these elaborate mud pies when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and of my memories as a child, those for some reason stand out. So as an adult, as a older person, it's really cool to be able to have the time, sort of like I did as a kid, to experiment with clay. And I fell in love with the porcelain. I saw a book when I had gotten my kiln that featured an artist named Jennifer McCurdy, who works with the translucent porcelain, and the idea that light could come through the porcelain and create these just beautiful, this very luminous effect caught my attention, and I have not turned away from that since. So that was one of the things that really brought me back into a hands-on practice of clay. I have always dabbled in it from school, and as an art teacher I got to play around with it some, but not as an artist really. So as far as my history, I grew up in Louisiana, and I went to school there and studied psychology and art. I wanted to be an art therapist, but there weren't very many schools that had those programs. So I ended up doing psychology, which I was probably more an artist, but that all worked out. And then decided to be a stay-at-home mom. Working, at home, there was a lot of time on our hands, so we read a lot, we made art a lot, we went to playgrounds and explored. When I was in high school and college, I was able to work with clay, and it was my great love. And then I had no kiln, so for 30 years, I guess, I was limited to other art forms, which I was at a conference in Asheville. I went to a pottery shop, high water clay, and they had this kiln for sale that was a little damaged, and I was like, I think it's close to my birthday. I'm gonna talk to Larry and see about getting it. And I brought it back in my Honda Pilot and got my boys to unload it. And I had another kiln, but I never could get it to work. And I had a little bitty kiln that just was not very practical for what I wanted to do. So this was my first really kind of brand new kiln, and it just opened the doors back up for working in clay, which is truly what I love to work in. Well, this is where I do a lot of my clay work. If I'm not outside on the big table that you may have seen, that's really where I like to work best because it's so bright. But if I am working inside, this is where I work. This is my little slab, my little tiny slab roller that I roll out the flat pieces to make my translucent porcelain. And as you can see, when you hold it up to light, where it's just kind of a regular pattern, the clay, when it's fired, becomes translucent if it's fired high enough. So I try to work very thin, which you can see but it also allows a lot of cracking and things like that. So I have to be okay with imperfection, and but I do love working with very, almost like paper thin clay, which is not typically how you get a bowl and it's usually nice and substantial so that it doesn't break. But fortunately, the porcelain is really quite strong once it's fired to the correct temperature. Inspiration is just, I'll be walking the dogs and I'll see a fern and think, oh, that would look good in clay. Or I'll be at a antique shop and find a button and be like, oh, that would make a good impression in clay. So anything, anywhere, basically is my inspiration. Anything that has a pattern or texture, I'll take and use.
My name is Maggie Hayes. I have been working with art materials since before I could speak, I think. Or not before I could speak, but before I even remember. My mom had me playing with paint or chalk or, crayons, whatever. I was always really interested in doing that, so that was something that has always been a part of my life. But I kind of focused a lot more on sports when I was younger. After I quit sports, I was also doing yoga since a young age and became a yoga instructor. And at the same time, still doing all these paintings. I'm still doing all these artistic expressions. And at some point, I think I was maybe 20 or 21, I produced an exhibition myself and invited friends to participate, and then I started really liking the actual event of exhibiting. So exhibiting really got me into a space of being excited about producing art, and that's kind of the funny thing, is that I usually work backwards from wanting to have a body of work that is sort of saying something, and work backwards to create that experience and environment, rather than just thinking of a painting and painting it, or a lot of people that work from life. And I typically, though I enjoy painting from life, it's not exciting enough for me, and so the exhibition is really a big driving force. And then I have these other interests like DJing that I've been sort of on and off engaged with since I was maybe also 21. So it's this, I like parties, I like being with people, and I like the experience of having interactions and exchanges with people. So the way that art lets me do that is kind of the most exciting thing about art for me. I think that's why I've just enjoyed many ways of expressing myself, because it's really more about the connectivity and the internal transformation and the transformation we can have with each other than any given mode of expression. So when we think of creativity in a bigger sense, it's like the molding of our lives. And I've noticed, because I do love people, I've noticed where people are suffering. I've noticed where I've suffered. And so to me, the bigger creative scheme that I'm working on is releasing suffering and transforming suffering into grace or beauty, and how can I help other people in their effort to express themselves. So for me, being sort of an example in some ways, a teacher in other ways, and just a friend is just equally important to all my other artwork.
Thank you for watching this episode of Sulfur Artist Talks. Sulfur Studios is a project of Arts Southeast, a nonprofit whose mission is to make Savannah a destination for art and culture in the Southeast by supporting established and emerging artists, engaging a diverse community with creative programming, and developing awareness and appreciation of the arts. This content is made possible by viewers like you. If you'd like to support our mission, please visit us at www.sulfurstudios.org to learn more. You can also reach out to us via email at info@sulfurstudios.org. On behalf of Sulfur Studios, I wish you well and hope to see you next time. Thank you.